But yeah, that's huge. And then also, like Scott Seals talked about on the podcast before, those little SMZs, streamside management zones, little hardwood ditches running up on the ridge tops, going up the ridges that have oaks in them, specifically white oaks and some red oaks. Hunting those early season, you can have a lot of success. Like Scott's had a lot of success killing bucks in that kind of habitat, coming to those feed trees because there's not many options, and it's also really tight to bedding. If you can get in there clean, you can have a really, really good hunt. But yeah, pine country specifically, and even with hardwoods, habitat edges is massive. Absolutely massive. Transitions between different age pines.
All right, everybody, we're doing another Thursday Q&A this week. We're going to be playing like 50 questions here because this week we put our Q&A prompt up on Instagram and Facebook, and y'all wrote in a whole bunch of questions. We got a bunch about early season specifically, so I think we're going to start out kind of early season heavy, and then we're going to get into some of the other stuff, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun conversation.
Also, appreciate everybody that submitted those questions on Instagram and Facebook. It'd be even better if I go over to the website, links down in the show notes below in the video description, and go submit your video Q&A. You just film yourself on your phone. It goes through our website. Super easy to use, so we can actually play you on the podcast and answer some of your questions. We really like doing that. This is going to be fun too, but really want you guys to kind of submit some of those video questions when you get an opportunity here in the very near future.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Don't be shy. It's a good time.
Come on. All right. Anyways, by the way, thanks everyone who came by at the World Deer Expo this week. We had a lot of fun there. Y'all bought a bunch of shirts. That was fun. I forgot to mention this, I think, on the last Thursday episode before that Deer Expo, but we have some Expo exclusive items for right now that we're doing. One of them is this hat right here. It's a leather patch with the rope on it. I really like this hat. And we got grunt calls too. A lot of people have been asking about grunt calls. We got grunt calls, but they're Expo only right now. So next chance y'all have to get some of that is
this weekend.
GON Outdoor Blast in Emerson, Georgia, just right there outside of Atlanta. That's going to be a really fun show. And then early August at the Mobile Hunters Expo, August 8th through the 10th. So that one's going to be super fun as well. But those items are going to be available there. So if you want one.
By the way, we're booth 604, 605, and 606 at the GON Outdoor Blast in Emerson, Georgia this weekend. So come by, hang out with us, come get some apparel, come say hi, show some deer trail cam photos or deer you've killed in the past. It's going to be a good time. So look forward to seeing you guys in the GON Outdoor Blast Expo this weekend in Emerson, Georgia.
Yes, sir. All right, let's kick it off. First up, we got Chance Williams. This is from Facebook. He said, in a food-rich environment, how do you narrow down the feed trees to hunt? What do you think?
Well, I saw your answer on Instagram was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, I mean...
That's not what I thought. You were about to trash it.
No, because like if it's a food-rich environment with feed trees and they're all producing, the feed trees... And when we say feed trees, 99% of the time what we're talking about is white oaks and then red oaks.
Yeah.
Those two species. There's other oak species that produce, but those are the pretty heavy producers down here in the deep south and for a lot of the country. Early season white oaks, if you have a bunch of white oaks and they're producing real heavy, the ones closest to bedding is going to be a huge factor for you. Something that is those first few trees when a buck gets out of his bed in the afternoon to go feed on a little feeding jaunt, is going to have your highest odds of success. But also it comes back down to like some of the past episodes with Rick Cope from South Carolina, Richard Fott from Arkansas, our buddy Greg Mayhair from South Carolina. When they talk about feed trees, it's truly just trying to find that one tree that has the most feed sign under it compared to the others. And also looking for feed trees, especially early season, that have whip rubs and rubs around them. Sometimes you'll find scrapes around them as well. That can also key in as a factor if you're trying to shoot a buck early, what you should be looking for. But typically, again, some of the more successful feed tree hunters we've talked about on years like that, the closer you can get to bedding cover, the higher odds you're going to have a buck come through during daylight hours on an afternoon hunt, early season September, mid-late September going into October. That is a time of year that I struggle specifically. I've had some pretty good hunts in early bow season, but it's one of those things that my problem is I get too much in my head when I find pretty good sign. I hang on it instead of keep looking and double checking and look further. Because a lot of times you might find something that looks pretty good, you set up on it, and it's a little subpar. You may see some deer, you may not. But if you would have gone another 100 yards, 200 yards further, you might would have found something a little bit better, or actually quite a bit better. Or you might not find anything better, and you go back to that tree and sit on it and see how it goes. But the thing about early season feed trees and areas like where you have a lot of mass crops, it's very time sensitive. Like those trees are going to drop, and then you got to find the tree that's hot that time of the week, really, and capitalize on it. Because if you wait from one weekend to the next weekend, that tree could probably dry up and that sign drop, and you got to go find it again. So it's constantly moving. Jonathan Moreland is a great example of this from Monday's episode. You know, covering a ton of ground, finding the hottest sign, sitting on it, and getting opportunities that way.
Yeah, I think what I said on Instagram too was if the environment's food rich, then food's not the limiting factor. So then focus on whatever the limiting factor might be. So maybe cover, I think is what I said. And that's kind of what you're talking about is like maybe try to find, if the food's everywhere, then if you find cover, it should have food next to it.
Yeah.
So hunt that food, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our buddy Scott Seals talked about this too. Like,
Yep.
you know, he's hunted some public where it was majority all big hardwood oak hickory forest. There's producing oak trees everywhere, and it made it hard to isolate individual trees that were really good. And then when they started clear cutting it, and they left all these oaks down in these SMZ streamside management zones, these ditches and draws and creek drainages around the place, and they clear cut the tops of the ridges, it isolated the food a lot more, and it was easier to spot check a bunch of different trees because it was a little more limited resource. If you're, again, dominated by oak hickory forest and there's food everywhere, you can still probably have success hunting feed trees. But again, feed trees closer to bedding areas, you're going to probably have a lot more success, or staying close to whatever the best bedding cover is at that time of the year, which is still challenging because early season, especially if there's good sunlight coming through the canopy, there's a lot more abundance of good cover early season than there is mid to late season hunting. And also, a lot of times, like we've had guests talk about this, especially in Arkansas in the big river bottoms, some of those bucks and some of the deer will just bed in wide open oak flats up against some trees or up against a brush top where they're staying real close to where they're feeding at, but also they're not traveling super far because they're staying close to the food. It's hard to get in there. It's open, and the deer, you know, super comfortable in that. And there's plenty of shade because all those trees, you know, early season still have all their leaves on the tree. Yeah. So it is challenging, but again, you can have success doing it. I have only killed a handful of does doing it. Had some opportunities at bucks, but I've never killed a buck super early in bow season. So, you know, most of the advice we're talking about is more so from past podcast guests.
Yep.
On that topic.
Yeah, definitely. This question kind of goes hand in hand with that one. This is from Brett Caldwell. He said, "How do you find bucks in October when they aren't laying down much sign?" Ooh, that's a good one too. What I said to this on Instagram was that usually they are laying down some sign that time of year. Like it might be like little bitty scrapes, or it might be whip rubs. But it's usually really isolated to right where they're at. They're not running creek bottoms for 3 miles, laying down a rub line like they are in the rut. But what they are always leaving is tracks, no matter what. Every time they walk around, they're leaving tracks somewhere, usually. And so that's something that I've used. Again, I haven't killed a nice buck in October. I've killed them in November in Alabama, which is kind of still our early season in some areas because our rut's not till January. And I've had luck with tracks before in the past, especially on creek crossings and especially just locating the bucks. I mean, a track for me is probably the easiest way to go out and just find a deer any time of year. We had another question that was about summer scouting. I said the same thing, that it's worked really well for me. That the really, really big deer I got on camera last year that we haven't shared any pictures of because he's really big and I don't want to share pictures of him. I found him using a track in a creek. Me and Mike went and ran this creek for a long ways, and we were checking every sandbar looking for tracks, and I found that track and put some cameras in the area and ended up picking up that buck. And he's like the biggest deer I've ever found. Yeah. And his track too, going back to, you know, knowing what's good for your area. If you found that track in some like river bottom agriculture land, it probably wouldn't be that big of a track. But in that area where it's just timber, that was a big track because the body sizes just aren't as big or whatever the case may be. So you got to take that into consideration, and you need to go out and just find a bunch of tracks, and then you'll figure out what it is for your area. Like we always say in Alabama, like a 4-finger track, like if you can lay your 4 fingers down in it, then that's a pretty good track. But we've hunted places in Alabama where that kind of track we killed 2 mature bucks on one hunt a couple years ago, and both of their feet were just little bitty.
Yeah.
And their bodies were little bitty too. I mean, mine weighed 135-ish, and yours weighed about 10 pounds heavier than that. Mm-hmm. And with guts in them.
Yeah, guts in them. Yeah.
So, and you remember that week? We were looking around for tracks all week, and we're like, man, we just can't find big tracks. And then we killed those bucks, and we're like, oh, because they have small feet.
Yeah, small hooves.
You know?
Yeah, and both of those bucks, like yours was a 4.5-year-old 10-point, and mine was a 5.5-year-old 8-point. And yeah, small body, small frame, small hooves, the whole 9 yards. One other thing I was going to mention, the tracks is a really big point, but like I go back to one, I call it a successful hunt just because I got right in on deer and had the opportunity at a freaking giant. And that's the story for most of me, all my real big deer I've never killed, just had real close encounters. But in Tennessee, hunting early October with a cold front, I ended up driving up there and hunted a piece of public that I had some history with. And there's a spot where there's a bunch of habitat edges. I knew on one side of a creek, it was a bunch of red oaks, specifically red oaks and some mixed white oaks. But there's oaks on one side of the creek. On the other side of the creek, it was more cedar thicket with some old fence rows running through it and everything. Like good habitat edges that all kind of came together where deer could feed on one side of the creek and work back into bedding. And I went down there blind one day, drove all the way up there, parked the truck, slept in the truck, woke up the next morning and hiked in and got in that spot blind and saw, I think it was like 15 bucks on a morning sit. Or not 15 bucks, 15 deer on a morning sit.
I was about to say, like, God.
And $5. And one of them, two really, really nice, either 2.5-year-olds or really good 3-year-olds come by, and I'd already shot a freaking spike opening day and
down to one
in Tennessee. So I was like, I don't want to kill one of those deer because I know there's some bigger bucks in the area. And at 8:30 in the morning, cold, I mean, it was like one of those cold fronts. It was in the 30s that morning in October, like first week of October. And this huge non-typical was walking by. I was playing on my phone, texting my buddy Jacob Emery, and this big buck came walking by at 25 yards. He was parallel in the creek, going back up in the cedar thicket at 25 yards. And I looked up before he got completely out of the shooting lane. That was back when we were self-filming hunts. We don't self-film hunts anymore. This is one of the reasons I hate self-filming. I should have just grabbed the bow. I didn't grab the bow, I grabbed the camera because I need video evidence of it. Couldn't get the camera working in time. So I left the camera, grabbed the bow. By the time I had the bow, he was walking away. He turned and was walking away at 35 yards back up that cedar thicket. But it was just a habitat transition edge. There was no real rubs in there. I mean, I went in the dark, but there was no rubs. It was just a travel area where they were coming up and down the creek. They were crossing the creek from this oak flat or side of this ridge that had tons of feed on it, and they were all going in and out of the cedar thicket. And that's where I saw a bunch of does that morning. These other bucks had come parallel the creek doing the same thing, going back up in the cedar thicket, and the big buck did the same thing. So you can still use habitat edges and like habitat, not really terrain features, but more habitat edges and travel corridors during early season in big woods if you know that there is a specific section of it that has the like high quality feed, again specifically mass crops, oaks that are dropping, and kind of cheat your way back, specifically on a morning hunt, getting yourself on that travel path, going back to bed, and catch bucks coming back from that. And again, it worked in that hunt. It's one of those places I kick myself because I still have not been back there. It's been 4 or 5 years, but that worked for me. And I've done that multiple times, like especially when I was back in college. I hunt blind so often. I say hunt blind, like I wasn't pre-scouting these areas other than maybe looking at like Google Earth at the time because I didn't have OnX. And just like having habitat edges, walking in, morning hunt, afternoon hunt. And I always seemed like I had more luck for whatever reason early season just finding deer on morning sits. Like where there's oaks somewhere close by, there's thick cover somewhere close by, stick to the thick cover side of it and have deer kind of working back through, going back to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning in October.
Yeah. Yeah, again, a lot of these questions kind of tie together. This one's from Marshall Buller. He said, How do you find deer sign in piney woods with little to no terrain features? I have a feeling it's kind of similar to what you were just talking about.
Yeah, it's habitat edges. More edges you have coming together, the better. And also, that's for any time of the year. But also edges that go for a long ways, like a creek drainage where there's an SMZ. There's hardwoods in the creek drainage that runs a long ways through some pine cover. That's a long range, as Bobby Worthington would talk about, long range funnel. Those deer kind of work that habitat edge for a long ways during the rut. But yeah, that's huge. And then also, like Scott Seals talked about on the podcast before, those little SMZs, stream side management zones, little hardwood ditches running up on the ridge tops, going up the ridges that have oaks in them, specifically white oaks and some red oaks. Hunting those early season, you can have a lot of success. Like Scott's had a lot of success killing bucks in that kind of habitat, coming to those features because there's not many options, and it's also really tight to bedding. If you can get in there clean, you can have a really, really good hunt. But yeah, pine country specifically, and even with hardwoods, habitat edges is massive, absolutely massive. Transitions between different age pines, different sub-canopy vegetation, whether it's old logging road that's kind of grown up and there's saplings going up through it or brush growing up through it, and it's a nice habitat edge that runs through some of that timber. That can be a path of travel for deer. So there's a bunch of different things like that you can kind of look at. But you just got to get past the sea of green on aerial imagery and pines and find the habitat edges, and you'll find a lot more deer sign. You'll find a lot more deer in those areas.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. And the good thing about pine country is there's usually no shortage of edges because different timber blocks are cut at different times. And, this one might be loblolly pines. This one might be longleaf pines. This one might have been thinned. Maybe this is a new clear cut. Whatever the case may be, those habitat lines the deer are going to kind of congregate on those, really no matter where you are, even if you're in hardwood country, like you're saying. We've even seen it in big open hardwood country where it's just nothing but oak trees and hickories and things of that nature. Even just finding something as simple as like a little bit of understory, like on a north-facing slope versus a south-facing slope. Like if you walk up the north-facing slope, it's just wide open. I mean, you throw a football underneath that canopy. But then you pop over to the south side, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of like sparkleberry or beech trees or hollies or whatever the case may be. That edge is good too. Like the deer are going to go back and forth from that. So that's it. It's all about the habitat edges, baby, no matter where you're at. All right. This is from Zach Starling. He said, underrated tips for hunting public ground. I'm going to let you go first.
It's not always about how far you can go in. Sometimes it's what you have to go through in order to find deer, which could be a lot closer to the truck. Example of that is just, parking on a road, not at a main access gate or like a side road, but parking somewhere on the public where you have to either cross a big creek, go up a big hill that nobody wants to go up and get on the back side of it, or walk through a thicket or get around a thicket, something like that you don't have to go in super far, but the deer are pretty tight there. Also, this is a great, I guess, a great tip is don't be afraid, and Jeremy Aaron talked about this as well, don't be afraid of driving around on some public, especially like on a Saturday morning when there's probably a decent amount of hunters out, and not only seeing where guys are at, but also look at where you're seeing deer. Because a lot of times if you go out, right at daybreak, especially right at daybreak or right at last light, drive around for 30 minutes to an hour, you'll see where deer are crossing at. And you'll see deer on the side of the roads. That can tell you a lot about where you can find some deer because they're probably not super far from that. And you can actually find some of the trails that they're using crossing some of these roads and then use that point of travel where they're going from, where they're coming from to go in and scout and hunt in and around where they're, again, traveling. That's something that's I guess underappreciated and not talked about so much. Again, you can do a lot from the truck. Aaron Warburton talked about that as well when we interviewed him. You can learn a lot from the truck without actually having to walk in the woods. You still need to do that, but you can learn a lot just from driving around, finding where tracks are at, and seeing where you're seeing deer cross and keying on some of that spots. Like I think of a spot in public that for I think it was 1 or 2 seasons there was I never had seen the deer, but I heard from multiple people they had seen this really big buck on this piece of public land that we've hunted in this one spot, and it's super thick next to the road, but they would see it right after last light or right in the morning before daylight. They would see it cross, and right in this one section, half-mile section, they'd see it cross. And I'd gone in there and looked, and there's a big sign and tracks all in there, but it was so thick. It's like, okay, how do you hunt it? And that could be the problem with some of that stuff, where some of these deer are living, some really thick stuff, not far off the road. But it comes back to, like, can I get in a position where I can actually shoot that deer and get opportunity at that deer? And that's the trouble. But yeah, driving, I think you can learn a lot by doing that instead of just constantly just walking the spots. You definitely want to walk in, but you can learn a lot from the truck.
Yeah. Okay, mine. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what mine is. I think that for as much talk as there is about avoiding the pressure and not hunting where other people are hunting, sometimes those just good old obvious spots, the community holes, so to speak, are really good. And I'm definitely guilty of not hunting spots that could be good just because I'm like, oh, there's going to be other people hunting there. And then I go hunt some random place, I don't see anything, and then someone kills a nice buck in the overpressured community hole. I'm thinking specifically like where I had the guy climb next to me. Mm-hmm. That there's just big clear cut on, like the most obvious spot you could ever think of. Just giant clear cut. Bunch of people are hunting it. Place is a pumpkin patch on gun days during the rut. But people still kill nice bucks there. Yeah. Same thing with power line right-of-ways, gas line right-of-ways. Is there usually a guy hunting it on a gun day? Yes. Is it still a good spot? Yes. Sometimes you just got to be the first guy in there. So, there are areas like that. Maybe just don't write them off just because they are high pressure and they get hunted a lot. Because if you hunt it on the right day, if the deer are coming through there, it could be a good spot.
Yeah, specifically during the rut. Like, if it's one of those spots, you could hunt a spot that's been pounded, and the deer that live right in that area probably know about it, but you get one of these bucks that are traveling a good ways, and they haven't been through that area, and you time it right, you could hunt the most pressured spot in the world. It happens on hunting clubs all the time.
Oh,
Guys will sit on a food plot for 20 weekends a season, and finally someone will kill a really big buck on that food plot in January during the rut, after everybody else kind of either gave up on it or just someone wasn't there on that Saturday and they kill that big deer. Mm-hmm. That big deer might have come from who knows how far away, didn't know anything about how much pressure was there, and he just got killed. So,
or they just slip up. I made that heat map of the hunting club.
Yep.
And I also put where the 3 mature bucks that were killed last year, I marked where they were killed. All 3 of them were killed in the highest pressure units on the whole club.
Yeah.
The ones that got hunted the most, that's where they killed the big deer. So that goes to show, like, even though people pounded those units every single weekend, all gun season, they killed those 3 in January, which was our rut, but that's after over a month of gun hunting had already happened. That's after Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, when everybody's out on the club, and it just gets pounded. And there's people sitting in those spots day in, day out. They still come through.
Well, some of the good old boy deer hunters I knew growing up, especially when I was in high school, dude, they'd hunt small properties, have 1 or 2 stand sites, and they'd hunt it all season long. But for a week straight in November during the rut, they'd kill 1 or 2 really big deer. Mm-hmm. And they didn't care about the wind. They didn't care about none of that. It was just, whatever reason, that day the conditions were right. They weren't paying attention to that. They were hunting a historical spot. They'd pound it to death, and then that buck would either slip up, mess up, or show up for the first time ever and get killed.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm not saying that's a great strategy to go and hunt, but there are tons of people that do that, and there's success. Again, it kind of comes back down to, talking with this is, don't be afraid of pressure. If you find a really good spot, there is, especially down here where we're at, there's pressure, but it's not nearly as bad as you hear. At least I haven't experienced it all that much, but like one of these over-the-counter states in the Midwest, I think of like Ohio and Michigan specifically, there's just a ton of hunters. There's a decent amount of public land, but a lot of guys concentrate in smaller blocks. Not saying maybe that's the best spot, but if you got a rifle and you're in the deep South, you can get away with a lot more.
That's what I'm saying. Like, perfect example, like a lot of public ground down here has power lines or gas lines running through it that you can hunt. And you find a power line straight away that goes right through a thicket, like a clear cut, where it's clear cut on both sides and it's all thick on both sides. And there's like a spot on the edge of the power line that is hunted so often that there's like a
Warren
spot. Like there's
it looks like a campsite.
Yeah, it looks like a campsite. Like someone's sitting there every weekend. There's like a little Debbie wrapper over here. There's a Copenhagen can, a Mountain Dew bottle. But dude, you time it right and you hunt at the right weekend, that's a jam up spot.
I've hunted some of those spots and had success.
Yeah, me too. And that's when I talk about me overthinking stuff. That's the kind of thing I'm overthinking.
Well, where I killed my deer a couple of years ago in some public. Well, I should have tagged out that season. Ended up screwing up later in the season. Didn't kill my third buck, but my second one I killed, it was in one of those community holes. That place gets pounded all the time, but majority of the guys would always sit on the ground in there, which is fine. I mean, you could do that. And I was able to find a tree I could wiggle myself up into and get 25 feet up in that tree.
Yep.
And get a little bit different side advantage and just timed it right. Called a buck in, 6 yards, shot him, really nice 8-point. And then the next day went to the same tree again after killing that buck, called in another buck who stopped about 11 yards from me, wouldn't come out of the thicket. And you could just see him there, big old chest and barreled chest and forelegs. I can't see what is on his head, but he came right into a grunt sequence. And it was in one of those community holes, but the timing was right, and nobody was there.
Yep. You were the first one there.
Well, it's one of those spots, give you people an idea. When I'm sitting there before daylight, because I get in that spot stupid early. I mean, I'll be in that spot at least 45 minutes before gray light, sometimes an hour plus.
Like in the tree.
In the tree, like situated.
Yes.
And I am so on pins and needles listening for somebody come walking up or seeing a light. I'm talking like there's no like, oh, I'm going to take a nap in the tree. It is like full-blown hypersensitive.
You got
listening.
That flashlight ready, son.
Yeah, listening, looking, because I'm like, ain't nobody walking in trying to sit right here below me or right here next to me. And thankfully it hasn't happened, but I mean, it's just one of those spots, dude. Producing is worth hunting, but like you just know at some point you're going to have competition, people walking in, which is fine. It's public land, but I don't want to be necessarily stacked in somebody. We got tens of thousands of acres to go hunt around, but anyway.
Yeah.
If you want to get a head start on deer season, you can go out and you can actually scout feed trees in summer. This is something we've been talking about on the podcast quite a bit lately. Today I'm out here, I've got a pair of Vortex Viper HDs. This is a great pair of binoculars for this. And what we're doing is we're just looking up into these oak trees, looking to see if we can see the little acorn buds on the limbs. So as summer goes on, it's going to get easier and easier to see those buds as they get larger. A tip for that is when you're looking up in the tree, you want to find a limb that's daylighted. It's just nothing but daylight behind it. You're looking at an isolated limb, and you're just going to want to pick that thing apart with a good pair of binos like these that are clear. I like to use a trekking pole and actually brace the binos on the trekking pole and sit down underneath that tree and really look at it for a while. So if you want to get a head start scouting feed trees this summer, go get you a pair of Vortex binoculars. Head on over to eurooptic.com. Use the code SOUTHERN10 and it's going to get you a discount on these binoculars or any other optics that Vortex sells.
If you're enjoying this show, there's one place you need to be this August, and that is the Mobile Hunters Expo in Dalton, Georgia. We get a lot of questions about how do you find new hunting buddies, how do you find like-minded people who like to hunt the way that you do, who you can bounce ideas off of, go on trips with, whatever the case may be. The Mobile Hunters Expo is the place to do that. If you're wanting to go get connected with the community and meet like-minded individuals, the Mobile Hunters Expo is it. So not only are you going to get the chance to network around and meet other people in this space, but also all the mobile hunting gear is going to be there. If you've ever wanted to try any saddles, lock-ons, sticks, or any other kind of niche mobile hunting gear, this is the place to do it. You know, a lot of those companies are direct to consumer, so you can't just go to a store like a Bass Pro or anything like that and try these products out. This is going to be the place you can do it. So mark your calendars, August 8th through the 10th, Dalton, Georgia. We'll see you there.
So it might be the off season, but we're still always thinking about whitetails. And if you're looking to get more mobile this fall and you're looking at saddle setups, the two most common designs you're going to see are a single panel design or a double panel design. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. A single panel design is going to be more comfortable right out of the box, while a double panel design is going to be much more adjustable and customizable to your fit. We always say on the podcast, saddles are kind of like boots. Different people are going to like different things. As a general rule of thumb, I found that heavier set guys typically like a single panel more than they like a double panel. But other than that, it's just really a matter of preference. I personally use both of these saddles. This is the Method 2 from Latitude, and this is the Lone Star from Latitude. I will say that the Method 2 is really nice because it's a two-panel design. It's almost like you have a built-in back band that'll take a little bit of pressure off your back when you're sitting down. But If you're just getting into saddle hunting and you want something that's extremely comfortable right out of the box, the Lone Star is going to be your go-to. It has an advanced hip pinch reduction system in it, so right out of the box, this is going to be very comfortable, and you're not going to have the hip pinch issues that a lot of people have when they first get into saddle hunting. So if you want to be more mobile this fall, check out latitudeoutdoors.com to see these 2 saddles and a bunch of other mobile hunting gear. We've enjoyed them a lot, and I think you're going to enjoy them too.
Okay, next up, this one is from Instagram, and it's from Naper Sam 14. He said, hunting funnels versus hunting sign in the mountains. Pros and cons. Interesting question. What's your take on that?
Depends on the time of year he's talking about. If he's talking rut, give me the funnel. Lord, give me the funnel so bad. If it's early season, I'd hunt the sign. Or even late season, I probably would hunt a little bit more on the sign adjacent to a funnel. But yeah, give me the funnel. Give me that freaking worn out saddle. It's hard to get to. Sure, again, community hole. There might be other people hunt it, but I'm gonna try to get there when someone else can't go hunt, and set that spot for the rut because I feel there's a lot more confidence of does coming through and bucks dropping below that saddle or coming up around that saddle into that saddle, specifically like that kind of specific training feature. But yeah, give me the funnel. Give me something that, like, when a buck's working a long ridge system, if he's trying to go from one side to the other or wrap around a point, whatever that is, that's what I want. And a lot of times you're going to find sign in and around it. If you get to one of those spots and there's zero sign, there's zero tracks, zero scrapes, nothing, I probably wouldn't hunt that. But pretty much all the ones that we've hunted, you find sign either adjacent to it, in it, or in the vicinity where you can tell deer are using it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I use the example that when we killed those 2 bucks in the mountains a couple years ago, both of the spots where we killed are kind of like that. Like there's sign all around the funnel, but in, like, when you're sitting in the funnel, which both of them were saddles. Mine was kind of a saddle. It's kind of a weird setup. But there was sign all around it, but the sign wasn't right in the funnel. But it was on both sides where they're obviously, there's deer over here, there's deer over there. Here's a good funnel between those 2 areas. Yeah. Like pretty cut and dried like that. So even though there wasn't really a ton of sign compared to what was around, like I think in both of those funnels there were scrapes and like maybe a couple rubs, but especially yours. I mean, all the sign you had to walk past to get to that spot. Like that's what kind of turned me off of the spot actually, and that's why when we hunted there, you were like, "Are you sure you don't want to hunt there?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think it's any good." And then you
trust the terrain, baby.
That's when you went and shot a nice buck in there. But that was why, because you had to walk past so much good sign to get to it, that it just like you feel kind of silly sitting in a spot like that sometimes. But it worked. So I would agree. I'm a funnel guy, especially in the mountains. Also, we really only hunt the mountains in the rut too. I mean, we don't do a ton of early season stuff in the mountains, just because it's hard to find that sign. Like, you got to cover ground to find sign, and covering ground in the mountains, not super fun.
It's not easy. No.
Not easy. Or at least when it's warm outside. I'll do it when it's cold. But.
Yeah, trust the train, but again, the train should have sign adjacent to it. If there's no tracks, there's no trails, nothing like that going around the funnel, through the funnel, or there's not sign adjacent to the funnel, would not hunt it.
Yeah.
I would keep looking.
Yeah. All right. This is from Brandon T. Bunch on Instagram. He said, early season, would you prioritize bedding areas, feed trees, or trails between the 2?
You asking me?
No.
Okay, feed trees and trails between travel corridors, 100%. Now again, because like the bedding, especially early season, it's not isolated, it's not super concentrated unless that is the limiting factor is cover. A lot of places we hunt, limiting factor is not cover. More time, the limiting factor is the food source, specifically good mass trees, because we're in more pine country. But yeah, the feed trees, mass trees, acorn producing oaks, and travel corridors, trail systems going in between those back to bedding. And that's where, like, I know a lot of guys, like, you can put a camera on a oak that's dropping, but again, it's only gonna be hot for a little bit and then it's gonna shift. It's a lot better if you can find those travel paths, those trails, travel corridors, getting into an area with a lot more oaks and putting cameras there and try to figure out when deer are coming through, and that's probably a better ambush point in some circumstances. God, there was something I was going to say or I was thinking about on that topic. Yeah, I mean, just there's a reason why feed trees might not work everywhere, and there's some guys we interviewed that like absolutely despise hunting feed trees. But I think if you look at through the lens of you have a food source that's very limited, it's only on the ground for a certain amount of time before it potentially rots, specifically white oaks. If you can find it and you can get on it and you can associate that with some kind of sign and good travel, you could have a really, really good hunt. I've enjoyed, like I've hunted Arkansas in October around some feed trees, some red oaks that were dropping, and had some of my favorite hunts ever. Didn't even kill anything, just saw so many deer, just barely out of range. I was on the wrong tree. It was one of those times I stopped short, should have went another 40 yards and would have been right on top of these deer. But, you know, it was right next to a thicket. There was houses next to the public. It was super thick cover behind the houses, thick, brushy, just cover. And then it opened up to a big oak flat that went out towards the water. And as you walked through it, you'd find all these trails. You'd find some old rubs and find some fresh rubs coming out of that thick stuff. And you'd find all these red oaks going down. And I ended up just picking one that I really liked, had acorns on the ground and so on, and was able to see a bunch of deer. Just was off the X a little bit. One thing I will mention about feed trees, I want to bring it up because it's been a while since we talked about it. Mm-hmm. If you come from like river bottom hunting, swamps, lowland, and you're used to finding swamp chestnut oaks, gigantic white oak, if you get in hill country, those swamp chestnuts more than likely are not there. And if you find an acorn that looks like that and a tree that looks similar, it is what we call a mountain chestnut oak. Deer will not eat those unless there is almost nothing else to eat. Yep. Very few times we've heard either people having success on mountain chestnut oaks or even finding feed sign on mountain chestnut oaks. And you'll find these giant white oak acorns. But they'll be in hill country. Sometimes they're a little bit lower, but a lot of times they're kind of up on the sloping, kind of rockier areas. And a lot of times if they produce real heavy, you'll be slipping and falling, and you'll get stuck like, oh my God, there's so much food here. I've got to hunt it.
Yeah.
And you will not see anything. Ask how I know. 10, 12 years ago, I spent a lot of time hunting those trees, would never see a freaking deer. And then we started talking to more people, and they're just not sought after unless it is a really bad mass crop year. That's all that's there. They typically produce really heavy, and a lot of people, because we've had listeners reach out before, who moved more up into this part of the state, and they're used to hunting more South Alabama or South Georgia where there's a lot more swamp chestnuts.
Yeah. And
that's like a super highly sought after species in more lowland areas is swamp chestnuts. They come up here, they think they find the same tree, they don't find any sign around, but they hunt it and they don't see anything for a long time, and those acorns will rot on the ground. It's like not even squirrels touch them. Don't get caught up on that if you get more in hill country. If you're around a lot of limestone rock and stuff and you find those mountain chestnut oaks, it's cool to note it, but like you're probably not going to have success around those. You need to find more your classic red oaks or American white oaks, or especially if you can find water oaks down on the low bottom, that's great. But I would not focus on mountain chestnuts because you're going to be heartbroken and waste a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I can probably count on one hand how many times I've seen them eating on mountain oaks.
The only time I've seen is when we were in Georgia a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it was early September. There was nothing else dropping, and we found two or three little spots where there was feed sign on mountain chestnuts, oaks, but that was it. And me and Seth sat on one of them, never saw anything, which I mean, might have just been how we got in or whatever. Who knows, when I bumped a bunch of deer out.
Yeah, I think about that spot all the time, actually, where me and you found all the feed sign and I almost shot that spike that was in velvet. You were like, shoot him, he's in velvet.
It'd be your first velvet buck, bro. Gets you some keychains.
Yeah, son. That spot was
He's a freezer. See, I got my Freezer Queen shirt on. He'd be a Freezer Prince.
A Freezer Prince.
Youngin.
We need to make that shirt now. He's just like
Freezer Prince.
I call him Alabama 11 points, baby.
Yeah.
A little spike. You know, those spikes, they kill bigger bucks. Like two little shanks on their heads.
Yeah.
So when you shoot a spike, you're just helping out your mature deer, helping them not get shanked in the rut. Anyways, all right. Staying on the early season theme, we got a bunch of early season questions. This one is on Instagram from Marshall_Trey. He said, this will be a good one for you. August 15th, and it's hot. I'm assuming South Carolina.
Oh, yeah, I know this question.
Kudzu patch in a creek bottom or just off an ag field's edge. So I've hunted that really early, like August time frame. I did the Tennessee velvet hunt twice and had zero success both times.
Heartbroken.
Yeah, ruined me. You, on the other hand, have hunted it several times. You killed a really, really nice buck.
Yeah,
a couple years ago doing it.
Still my biggest buck I've ever killed.
Really?
Yeah.
He's bigger than the Iowa deer?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anyways, so what's your thoughts?
First off, it comes down to where the sign is. Where are you finding big tracks? And is there a feed sign? Mm-hmm. We've got a kudzu patch next to, I say the family farm, but my Uncle Anthony, his farm in central Alabama, there's a big kudzu patch just off the property. And it kind of, every year it kind of grows over, but he tries to burn it back and all that kind of stuff. It's hellacious. Deer love it, okay? Not problem with kudzu. It's hard to find really good sign around it, especially if it really mats up and it's thick. You can kind of find some trails and find tracks going into it, but scout the perimeter. I would say walk the perimeter of the kudzu patch, and depending on how big the kudzu patch is, if it's big enough, you can get away with glassing it. And if it's like a 10, 15 acre kudzu patch, and you can sit one side of it, one edge where there's hopefully no sign, you get good access, and glass it in the evening, a couple nights, and see what's coming out there, that would be great. Same thing with the ag field, because he's talking South Carolina, part of their gun opener in the lower part of the state, or as they call it, low country. And the ag field could be great too, but it also depends on, is there big tracks? Like anytime I'm hunting around fields or open areas, like, can I find big tracks coming in and out of that area? Is there feed size or browse pressure on whatever's planted? And then how does it set up for a mature buck coming through there? And really the best way to learn is, trail cameras are great, but glass it. If you can lay eyes on it a couple of different mornings right at daylight and a couple different evenings in the, last hour of legal light, it will teach you a lot about where they're using it. And I would recommend doing that the week before season comes in. So maybe 2 weeks before season comes in, go spot check and glass some of these spots and lay eyes on it. But if it's a big kudzu patch, I think both of them would be great. It's just, can you get eyes on a deer early like that and put yourself in a position? Because where he's talking about is also, if it's low country, South Carolina, they can gun hunt August 15th. He ain't trying to get within bow range. That's a different equation now, okay? If you're gun hunting that early.
This gets Jacob excited.
Oh, listen, fighting some mosquitoes, fighting heat stroke, and trying to kill a big deer with a rifle in velvet. 90% of people are like, oh, that's terrible. I don't care. If it's illegal, I'm down to do it. But I would be looking for sign, not scrapes and rubs, but tracks and feed sign in and around those two areas, sign going into it, and lay eyes on it by glassing and see what you can find. If it's a small kudzu patch, you might not be able to do that without being too invasive. But if it's a bigger kudzu patch, you'll be able to do that. Same thing with the ag field.
Yep. All right. This is another one from Instagram. All Day Sun 22 said, found a buck coming to ag, move in and scout the bedding, or set up on the edge of the ag in September. So it sounds like his season opens in September. Found a nice buck. Should he go in there and check it out now, or what?
I don't want to be a heartbreaker. I wish you would have given us intel of what the field is. If he's seeing it in the field, it's definitely not corn, because corn's going to be too tall to see the deer. So
Probably beans.
It's got to be beans, or if you're in the deep south, cotton, peanuts. But, Georgia opens early, and it could be in a peanut field or cotton field. It comes down to, not to be a heartbreaker here, if it's beans, and they ain't late planted beans, and they're pretty big beans right now, they may be close to being dead come September, and that pattern could shift before the oaks really start dropping. Because I'm guessing, did he say what state he's in? No.
Nope.
Probably Georgia, if I had to guess. Maybe North Carolina. They got a September opener. I would try to keep laying eyes on the deer, build a pattern, kind of where it's coming out from. And then when you can, depending on how big the property is, if it's a small property, I'd be very cautious of bumping that deer out early season. But if you can, maybe put in a camera, if you can find that couple trails he likes to use coming into the field, put a camera there to kind of learn a little more intel of when he's leaving those fields. And then if you can go back 100, 150 yards from the ag, down one of those trail systems that he seems to be using, and trying to find pretty decent bedding cover. Again, I know a lot of you guys hate trail cameras. It's a loud minority of you guys. But if you put a camera on some of those trails, you get build a little bit better pattern of how he's using it and where he's coming from. If the beans are still good and still green, and you're there 2 days before season and he's still feeding in them, I would have no issue probably sitting on the edge of the beans. But if it starts dying back and they're not using it so much, you're going to have to push further in and try to find the next food source that he's going to be feeding on, which is probably going to be some native browse, green vegetation in the timber that they're feeding on before acorns start dropping.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I just try to keep tabs on them, and the pattern changes, and you change with it.
Yeah.
That's really all you can do is just respond to whatever the deer does.
Dude, those ag field bucks, there's nothing more exciting than pulling up to a big bean field, glassing it, and having a freaking Magnum stand out there. I've seen it, done it. The stressful thing is if it's not right before season comes in, you're like, okay, it's great to see. Everybody else can see this deer too, especially if it's on public land. But also it's like it could shift. He could shift so much depending on what happens with food sources. And drought too. If it starts getting real dry, he could shift a good little ways. There's a lot of things that could happen right before season comes in that, to me, makes it even more stressful. It's fun watching, but it's also like, crap, like there's a freaking hammer, and now I'm trying to figure out, like, what do I need to do to get an opportunity at him? And is all the conditioning going to stay the same? Is there going to be pressure? Temperature shifts, which I'm not too worried about that, but like, is it going to dry up real bad? Is the plants, whatever's planted in that field, going to die off? All those kind of things makes a huge factor of what that buck's can continue to do if you can move in on them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and another reason, by the way, just to continue to keep tabs on them no matter what, is that if it is a bean field, if it starts to yellow, that's usually when they quit using it. But we have seen them feed, and like where it's like kind of half yellow, there's still some green in it, but it's kind of starting to go. They'll still feed in that from time to time, but it depends on what's going on in the timber too. Like, are the oaks dropping? What's the native browse look like? Are they getting bumped off of it? So there's just a lot of factors.
On bean fields, the first to go yellow is typically in the middle of the field where it's the most sunlight, it's growing the fastest. The edge up against timber, and if there's little coves that they planted kind of in the timber, like little openings, those get less sunlight. It takes them longer to grow. It holds more moisture. They're going to die later. That the vegetation is, the soybeans are. That's where you're going to want to look for browse pressure if everything else starts turning yellow, is those edges. Anything where it's a little shaded, the plant's a little bit smaller, they're growing a little bit slower, that's where you're going to have more success finding those deer feeding once it turns yellow.
Yeah. All right. This is from Worst Case Scenario on Instagram. Where do y'all usually find early season scrapes in pine/SMZ terrain for buck inventory? The same places you would find them any other time of year. It's the same scrapes. Like when I'm looking for scrapes for buck inventory, which there's a bunch of scrape questions, we'll probably do a couple more. I'm not looking for like the little one-off scrapes on a logging road. I'm looking for the bigger scrapes, bigger licking branch, multiple licking branch, twisted up licking branch, that kind of, or where there's like 2 or 3 scrapes in a little small area, like a 10, 20 yard area where there's multiple scrapes. That's what I'm looking for. They use those right now. They work the licking branches in velvet. They'll continue to do that. And I've already got a couple cameras in those spots on the club right now, and they're not really getting any activity yet. So I just don't think the deer are in there right now. But like one in particular, I've got this big thermal hub down in the bottom, just big bowl, couple creek drainages come in. The bowl itself is thick. It's got sparkleberry and privet and greenbrier. Switch cane. Ooh. It's got everything thick up in there. Like if you were to climb a tree in this bottom, your max shot's going to be like 18 yards probably. And there's one point that kind of juts further down into it than all the other ones, and it's lower. And we went up on that and found a scrape, me and Mike did. And I went ahead and put a camera on it. I haven't got a buck on it yet. Got a bunch of hen turkeys and some does on it. But I think that once those oaks start dropping, that they're going to start hitting that scrape. So that's what I'm looking for. I mean, literally the same scrapes that you would be looking for other times a year is what you're going to want to focus on, because even if they're not working the scrape right now, occasionally they'll come up and they'll work the licking branch in velvet late summer. But even if they're not doing that, they're still usually hanging around that general area. So they're probably in there somewhere. They're just not walking up to the scrape right now. Probably because it's on that little point and it's kind of isolated. So there's not really much of a reason for them to come to that scrape. But if it's in the bottom, or if it's in a good travel corridor where they're just spending time, you've got a much better chance of getting them on camera just walking past it. So that would be my advice there. All right, let's see what else we got. Do y'all have any examples of, this is from Brett Powell 99. Do y'all have any examples of Piney Woods rut funnels? What's a Piney Woods rut funnel for you?
Piney Woods rut funnel.
I think we kind of already covered that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, really it's habitat edges. It's habitat edges between different bedding thickets, which are typically either going to be thin pines or it's going to be a clear cut or clear cuts, and an SMZ, a drainage, something that runs through those, that kind of splits off where like you have a small creek drainage running through, runs for a couple miles, and you've got different age clear cuts on both sides of it. Those bucks are going to maybe not run the bottom of the creek, but they're going to run those top edges, kind of the top edge of those little ridges and run down, scent check and cross and everything. I mean, those are like traditional rut funnels in piney woods. The hard thing about piney woods, especially if there's not a lot of terrain aspect to it, is finding a really good pinch point for bow hunting. In my experience, gun hunting, I think you can cover a little bit more in those pines and have a better opportunity. Bow hunting, trying to find those really tight pinch points in pine woods that don't have a lot of elevation, that's pretty gentle, rolling hills are pretty flat. You can make it really, really tough because there's not hard topographical features that they're following along, like a big creek system or something like that, which can make it super challenging. But waterways are super important. Big SMZs, the head of SMZs, right where that ditch stops up in the edge of the pines, those can be great spots. This is hard to hunt because the wind normally swirls like absolute crazy in those areas. But really in pines, my hunting strategy in pines is during the rut, Alabama specifically, with a gun in my hand, where can I sit that I can see the furthest through thick cover? And there's a bunch of different examples we talked about on the podcast before. I love a big clear cut that has a big low spot, like a drainage SMZ that comes up into it, that they finally cut across the head of it, but that low spot continues to go up through that clear cut on the ridge. Those low spots are phenomenal for deer crossing through that clear cut. And a lot of times you can't sit on that ditch because there's nothing around it, and it's also kind of thick. But if you get in a tree stand, or get in your saddle and you climb up really high, like try to get 30 feet, and it's like a 2, 3, 4-year-old clear cut with pines growing up in it, you can get and shoot into pockets with a rifle. And those are phenomenal rut spots. Or like you mentioned earlier, big power line, big gas line, something that gives you a good visual through thick cover through a long distance where bucks are traveling and crossing back and forth or running the edge of is great. And Glenn Solomon, episode 116, and I think 510 was the last time we dropped it. Dropped his episode. He talked about that in Georgia, like sitting along those big power lines, and he would stagger hunt. He put one buddy like 50 yards off the power line, and then he'd get like 100 yards or 150 yards off the power line. They catch these paralleling trails going up and down these power lines where the bucks wouldn't necessarily cross it, but they parallel those power lines where the does are crossing, and sit check for does down the rut and have tons of success doing that.
Yep.
You just in pines, you got to look a little bit more outside the box and find travel corridors that you can see a good little ways. Have a rifle in your hand if you like to rifle hunt. If you like to bow hunt, you're just trying to move a little bit closer to that X and those individual trails. But we've seen in pines, like I found some trails that they use pretty repetitively and often in pines, and other times it's like they just kind of flow through an area. There's like, and Warren Womack talked about this, where you have food scattered out, and the deer are like, they're not going down individual trails, they're just kind of like following through this 100-yard wide area through these pines, and then they're just dispersing. And it's like trying to figure out where you can set in between that to have the most success. But I love hunting pines, but again, when I've had the most success hunting pines is with a gun in my hand, mostly because, again, our gun season, like we talked about with Jeremy Aaron, gun season's during the rut. Culturally, everybody in Alabama, if they're deer hunting during the rut, they have a rifle in their hands.
Yep.
Unless they're hunting public land and they don't have good rifle opportunities and they're carrying a bow because that's what they have to carry. But I would say majority of our Alabama brethren, if they had the chance to take a rifle, they're taking a rifle during the rut.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and just another thing on the straightaways too is sometimes there's just not a good funnel that's forcing deer to walk through one spot, and that's why in pine country, especially if it's flatter pine country, finding those areas where you can see really far with a rifle is the way to go. Because if you're watching a power line, or you're watching a gas line, or you're watching a closed roadbed that you're allowed to hunt on, like an old logging road or something, where you can see a straight line through some good cover, there might not be a pinch point right there where the deer are all walking within this smaller area. You might just be looking 200 yards, and over the course of that 200 yards, there's like 4 trails that cross, or 5 trails, or more than that. So while it's not really a pinch point, you are watching multiple trails at the same time, which is really what all a pinch point is. Like a pinch point is where multiple trails pinch down into one trail or less trail. Like if you have 10 trails that come to a place, maybe they pinch down into 3 different trails. And you're essentially doing the same thing. It's just more spread out, and that's why you got to rifle hunt it.
Exactly. And I go back to our buddy Tommy that we've hunted or stayed with.
Yeah.
And like that's his hunting style is like you want to kill a big butt during the rut down here in this pine country. You sit on a closed roadbed with a rifle on a tripod with a chair, or you can get up in a tree if you want to, but just sit on the ground and you have that gun pointed right down that closed roadbed that you can see for 250 yards, and you don't have the safety off, but you have it ready to roll. So like when that buck steps out, you're guesstimating how far he is, throw the safety off, and you're taking your shot.
Yep.
And that's like, to me, one of the more classic ways to hunt during the rut in pines if you have that opportunity with a rifle.
Yep.
And it works really well. I mean, we both had success doing it. We've interviewed multiple people that hunt that same way during the rut and have tons of success.
Yep. Don't overthink it.
Yep. And really, what makes those road beds really good is if you have multiple different habitat edges pinching down. Like, say you have like a small creek drainage that cuts across that road, and there's a culvert, and there's different age pines on either side of that creek that all kind of pinch down right there at that roadbed. That is an awesome spot to sit and watch. So.
No doubt. All right, going back to Facebook here, we got Corey Price asked, have you seen more success scouting into an area and setting up on best sign, or scouting and then coming back later? That's a good question.
Both. It really depends on the time of the year, though. I feel like early seasons, like you got to kind of capitalize on it right then and there, and that's like when I've had the most success getting on bucks is going in, finding it, setting up on it, and getting opportunities. During the rut, really, I mean, because, during the rut, I mean, especially a lot of stuff's semi-historical, kind of like where that movement is, and you can find that old sign. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff you can pre-scout or scout posties and get an idea of where those deer were really congregating, where they were moving through, and then kind of go through and capitalize on it a little bit later on. And I don't feel like it's so necessary that you have to get on it right then and there. And you have a little bit more window of time, especially if you've got a pretty good-sized doe group in there. But I feel like early season definitely, like scouting with your saddle on, standing on your back, whatever you're using, bow in hand, finding a hot sign, and then kind of setting up accordingly right then and there, just because it shifts so much and moves so much, especially on mass, decent mass years. So I think it's both. It really just kind of comes down to time of the year, really.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too, is almost all my early season success has been going in and scouting my way in and then setting up on the best sign that I find. And I either see or kill a deer that day, or I go back to it over the next 2 or 3 days, and that's when I have my success. But with the rut, it's just the opposite. It's almost never walking in and finding the hot sign. It's more hunting the terrain funnels, the good spots that I know are going to be good based on what I found earlier.
Now, I say it just also depends on where it's at, because I think of some of the bucks I've killed in Arkansas, a lot of times hunting the rut, it was going in on that hunt, standing on your back and killing the first time you go in there.
Yeah.
Like my big 7-point I killed, and on that same trip when I saw the 3 other shooters in this other spot, I just saw it on the map. I'm like, this looks like a spot there's going to be does at. There's going to be bucks shooting through, get in there and get an opportunity. So it really just depends. I just think you have more leeway with hunting the rut by finding old sign and then finding where that sign starts trickling in during the pre-rut, where it's located at, where you're finding does and seeing does on camera or seeing does from the stand, and then going back in there right when the timing's right and the weather's right too.
Yeah, definitely. This is from Mason Brook. He asked, not sure if that question came through. I think he tried to write a question earlier. What are the top 3 browse species deer prefer in the South? Now, I feel like this is different in every area, because one I hear all the time is beautyberry, American beautyberry, and I rarely ever find it browsed, ever. I'm sure they eat it. I'm sure it is good, but I hardly ever find them browsing on that. For me, it seems like it's always poke salad, ragweed, and greenbrier. Those 3. Like, if I find one of those 3 species in a spot and it's not browsed, I'm like, Like, it should be browsed if there's deer hanging around.
Well, it's funny because, like, when you hunt places down here, I was going to say, greenbrier definitely gets a lot, and there's a bunch of different species of briars. A lot of them we just call it all greenbrier, but there's a bunch of different ones. The greenbrier with the big, they're not quite oval leaves, but they're big, wide leaves.
Like a spade shape?
Yeah, it's spade shape. A lot of times down here, like you'll walk through some stuff and there will not be a leaf on it.
Yes.
Like it wasn't until I went to like maybe Tennessee or somewhere else where I realized they had leaves on them. Seriously. It's like down here, like I rarely will find it. Any time of the year, you're going to find a leaf on one of those suckers because it's already taken off.
Right.
So that's definitely, when you hear a lot of guys talk about honeysuckle, to be honest, when I've been around a lot of honeysuckle, I've looked and I've never seen like a ton of browse on honeysuckle.
Yeah, me too.
One, it's really bad. Really bad. It's invasive. But deer eat it like crazy. It came up earlier. It's kudzu.
Yes.
Like really bad.
Not good.
You don't want it. You don't want to plant on your property.
We don't endorse kudzu.
You do not endorse kudzu. But if you're on public land and it's early season and the kudzu's not dead yet, there will be deer eating the kudzu.
Yep.
So
I definitely.
It is high in protein, but it takes over everything. It kills trees. Do not have it on your property. If you had it on your property, I would probably try to eliminate it or good luck trying to highly manage it. But it's hard enough to try to get rid of it. But yeah, that's another one. I'm probably gonna get messages from some of our buddies who do
Land management.
Yeah, like I can't believe you said that. Sorry, guys.
All right. Next up, we got Roy Hernandez. I love this question. I'm a Florida hunter. I can find bucks, but I have trouble killing them with the 4 to 6 day quota hunts that we have. Any tips? So this is real similar to, a lot of places in the Southeast, like here in Alabama, if you're hunting a wildlife management area, you have certain gun days that you can go out there. Or if you're hunting an SOA hunt and you can only be on the property for like 3.5 days or whatever it is, you've got limited time to go out there and make it happen. So when you only got that short window of time, how do you make it happen? What do you think?
First of all, I want you to answer because I already know what your answer was, and I thought it was good. So I want you to do it.
Dang, I'm on today.
Well, you had thoughts because you took your time at the house answering these questions and posting them on.
Yeah,
Instagram.
it took forever.
So, but you answer yours, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts.
So what I said yesterday to this was, it depends on how you've been hunting them. If you feel like you've been really aggressive and you've been really pushing the envelope, trying to get in there on them and trying to make something happen, and you're not killing anything, maybe dial it back and don't be as aggressive. If you feel like you're being too passive and you're not pushing the envelope and you're just never close enough, then maybe try to be a little bit more aggressive. I would just say that whatever you think your approach has been thus far, just change it. Do the opposite of what you've been doing. And maybe you kill them, maybe you don't, but you're going to learn more about maybe why you're not killing them, because we've had that on SOA hunts before, where you get 1 day to scout it, usually in October or September, if you draw up one of these hunts, and then when you go out there, you can hunt, Thursday afternoon, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and Sunday morning, and then you got to be out of there. So that's it. And on those hunts, usually what we found on those hunts is we're maybe being a little too aggressive off the bat, and we're kind of overthinking it and trying a little bit too hard and overcomplicating it, when really all you need to do is kind of just hunt the deer. Like you were talking about with the road beds, or getting in a spot where you can see far, or hunting the obvious food source, whatever the case may be. A lot of times we're too aggressive. So that's been our problem, and we've corrected that and ended up killing deer on those hunts. But what do you think?
I think on bow hunts I'm not aggressive enough. Gun hunts I'm too aggressive.
Yeah.
So like bow hunts, kind of going with a gun mentality. And it's real bad when we go from gun hunting to going on a bow hunt. It's like real bad because I'm like, oh, this looks good, and I'll set up just far enough away that when I do see a deer or have a buck come through, it's a little bit it's too far for me to shoot, like 55, 60 yards, 40 yards, 45 yards, whatever. Instead of like trying to get more on the actual X itself. Where on gun hunts, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I can kill them close, I can kill them far. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to try to get as close as possible. And sometimes you just kind of blow out some stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like your hunting personality, because I think one of the best examples of someone who we had him on the podcast, but it's for like a short segment. We need to do a full length episode with him, which is Andy May from Michigan. really well-known bow hunter, great guy, but he really specializes in going on super short trips, 2-3 day trips, and killing a upper echelon buck in a state that maybe he doesn't have a lot of hunting experience in. And he hunts hyper aggressive. He's very aggressive as a bow hunter, pushing the envelope, not afraid to bump deer, like really trying to get in there on them. And that's how he kind of makes his own luck by doing that. And for a lot of us, we're probably so cautious, and I know I'm so timid about bumping deer, especially with a bow in my hand. I get a little too passive when it comes to bow hunting. So definitely, I think that's a big change that you can kind of make. And also trying to build some kind of history. If you get a quota hunt every year, like I know some of these Florida guys have the same quota hunts every year, building history with the area will help you so much. Go in there and have a little more confidence on where to start, break down a little quick scouting, and then where you need to get a good opportunity. And listen, I am not jealous of you Florida guys at all hunting down there. I'll still say it today. I am not interested. Andrew wants to go down there and deer hunt. I am not interested. It was hard enough to turkey hunt.
We're doing it.
And at least we can hear them gobble. Deer hunting that crap down there, God, it'd be rough. Northern part of Florida, I'd be good with, the pine country.
Yeah.
You start getting to like Tampa and south, y'all have that stuff. I ain't interested. That's rough.
Yeah, we saw a lot of deer when we were turkey hunting down there, though.
Yeah, that's how it is. And then you go deer hunt, you see a lot of turkeys, you don't see many deer. Yeah, that's exactly how that works.
Yeah, that's true. That is how it goes. All right, let's do some scrape questions. We got a couple more of these. This is from iScott_10 on Instagram. What are some good terrain features or areas to find community scrapes in steep hill country? Really, where I've found the most luck is anywhere that you have just a really good flat on that mountain, or just steep hill country, whatever the case may be. Whether it be on a side slope and there's like a little shelf or a bench right there, that's always a good spot. Some of those larger, what I call like a landscape saddle, those are really good spots. A land bridge is a good spot. These are all terms that we've discussed in past episodes. Probably my favorite one is going to be a land bridge type saddle. And all that is where you have one ridge system that's usually taller. Let's just say it's the tallest ridge system in the area. And then you've got smaller ones off to the side of it that aren't as tall. And if you can find where one of those smaller ridge system connects to the taller one, that's going to be your land bridge typically. What?
Land bridge is connecting two different ridge systems.
That's what, well...
Like parallel ridge systems and one's cutting across.
It depends. It depends on who you ask.
Oh, terminology's changing? Okay.
No.
Because I found actual land bridges.
So what?
Okay.
Okay. So the land bridge example, like what Chuck Young talks about, for instance, you kind of only see that in the Ouachitas.
We found in Georgia because I gave him an example in Georgia where I found one.
Yeah, but that was that's a pretty rare exception. I mean, the examples that Chuck gave us, just because of the topography of how the Ouachitas lay out, they're pretty common there, where it is a lot of paralleling ridge systems. But even in Georgia, a lot of those ridge systems aren't really paralleling each other. It's kind of more like really anywhere in the Appalachian Mountains is kind of like this. It's usually mountains with like ridges running off of them. And so that's when I say land bridge, that's kind of usually what I'm talking about, because I feel like it's more applicable to the wider audience, is where you killed your buck on the mountain hunt, the big 6 point. Like that, I would consider that a land bridge, because it connects a long ridge that's coming off of a bigger ridge, and where those two meet is usually there's a saddle there, and that kind of ends up being a land bridge.
Well, guys, you're going to experience one of the first times me and Andrew are really arguing with each other. So I just call that a big secondary point. Because the land bridge, like I've seen it in Tennessee, I've seen it in Georgia, and really the only one was Georgia. And it was two paralleling secondary points coming off the main mountain, and then there was an actual land bridge, like there was ground connecting both those points together, like went straight across it, and it was a steep drop off on one side and a steep drop off on the other side.
Yep.
Now, when I try to find a video, when I put out the YouTube video for Chuck Young's episode where he's talking about like his top 3 terrain features, which was saddles, benches, and land bridges. I was trying to find I didn't want to show the one I knew of, so I was trying to find another example, and I could not find one. Like they are very hard to find. And there was guys, because I posted like something on TikTok, and some of the buddies that we know, they're like, is that even a real thing? Like they hunt like flatland. Like I've never heard of a land bridge. And they are super hard to find. But I will say the one I found in Georgia had scrapes all over it.
Yeah.
Had scrapes
Yeah.
all up and down the thing, right where it up and down, but where it connected to both secondary points. Like both secondary points were going north, and land bridge was cutting right across from east to west. Where it connected to both ridge points, it had scrapes all over it. But anyways, kind of going back.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about though. Like, because Kyle Huffstetler, our buddy, messaged me after that episode, and he's like, "Can you send me an example of what that looks like?" And I did the same thing. I couldn't find a good example, and so I just zoomed over to the Watchitaws, and they're all over the place.
Yeah,
the Watchitaws, they're pretty easy to find, but again, it's kind of a unique terrain feature, and you can find them in other places, but they're not as cut and dried as they are in the
and we're totally sidetracked from like where you find scrapes, but I don't even know how they really form. If you think about it, because it's weird, because it's almost like you have a big drainage coming off the mountain. You have these two, or over there, it's not even the mountain. It's like these big, giant ridge systems, and there will be a land bridge that cuts across it.
Yeah.
Where it is a creek drainage on each side of it, and I'm like, I don't know how that's formed, really.
Yeah, no idea.
Through erosion and everything, but they're really interesting. It's super easy path travel. The other example I was going to say for in mountains is at the bottom of some of these thermal hubs, kind of high up on the ridge, high up on the mountain, where you have a bunch of at least two, if not three drainages all coming together high up on the mountain. Right there around one of those little ridge points is going to have a big scrape on it.
Yeah.
One of them is going to have it. If they don't have it, deer probably aren't using that all that much, but there's deer in the area, you're going to find a big scrape somewhere right there. Or like you were saying, at the close to right where that big secondary ridge point drops off the mountain, typically find one up high, and you'll find one a little bit lower down that secondary point, wherever there's a good point of travel to cross that ridge point, which is typically going to be some kind of saddle.
Yeah.
Or a low spot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we kind of agree. Kind of not really. I don't know.
I just never heard you say you called a land bridge. I've spent a lot of time with it. Never heard you call a secondary point a land bridge. But I kind of
usually that's a bad example where you killed that 6 point because it is kind of like a straight ridge that comes off. Really, what I am more talking about is when that secondary ridge comes off and then flares out, and there's more ridges. Coming off that point. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean.
Not like a straight ridge coming off. That was a bad example. You're right. But where that secondary comes off the main mountain and then just bulbs out.
Kind of like a palm frond, where it's got the main stem and it spreads out to all the finger leaves.
Oh, that's a good example.
That's the main stem is what you're calling land bridge. Yeah. That's a better example. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, this one is from Trip Morris. Where do you make mock scrapes and how do you make them? So usually for me, a mock scrape, I like to put a mock scrape in an area that deer are already using and they just haven't put a scrape there yet, whatever the case may be. Like sometimes there's just not a good licking branch. Sometimes maybe there used to be a scrape there and the tree got blown over or something like that, or whatever reason, maybe there's just not a scrape there. A good example for this is sometimes you'll find like a large saddle, kind of like what we were just talking about, where a ridge comes off of a main mountain and then bulbs out. It's kind of like that land bridge situation. A lot of times they're just passing through those funnels like that, and they're not really laying down much sign. So I might make a mock scrape right there just to give me a focal point in the middle of that funnel. Because let's say that the saddle's like 100 yards wide, and if you were to sit there, you would see deer crossing it, whatever. But if you were to put a camera in there, there's no way to like put the camera in a spot where most of the deer are going to walk by that spot. That's the kind of area I like to put a mock scrape. Because again, it just gives them a little something that they might come to and check out and maybe work the scrape, maybe just smell it and not work it, maybe just walk by it, whatever the case may be. That's the kind of area I like putting a scrape. And again, with scrapes, we've said it a bunch of times, but the scrape is there because of the deer aren't there because of the scrape. So it's not like the scrape is necessarily something that are attracting deer to an area from afar. The scrape should be in an area that the deer are already in. And you're just giving them something to come check out for a little bit of camera candy or whatever, or just have something to bow hunt if you're bow hunting, and just give something in there where even if they don't come and work the scrape, maybe they pass 20 yards closer to it because they're trying to wind it, whatever the case may be. That's how I like to use mock scrapes. And then as far as how you make them, get you a licking branch, whatever the case may be. You know, sometimes, like I made one a couple weeks ago, and there wasn't a great licking branch around, but there was a hickory sapling like 15 yards or 15 feet away from where I wanted the mock scrape to be. I'll just bend that hickory sapling over and tie it off to a tree so that the limbs on it are hanging right there at the perfect height for a licking branch, and then boom, you got your licking branches. And then just kick out the ground underneath it. You can pee in it if you want to. If it's in the right spot, you really don't have to do anything. You really don't even have to scrape up the ground. If it's in the right spot, the deer will start it and they will maintain it for you.
Yep.
Like, people make these scrape drippers you can put like buck urine in, and it'll like keep your scrape going. That probably does work to an extent. I'm not knocking it, but all I'm saying is if it's in the right spot, the deer are going to keep it going for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to add anything to it. You don't have to use any scents or anything like that. The deer will start using it and keep using it. So, you got anything on
I think when you're making a mock scrape, like you said, like you're not going to make a mock scrape in a Walmart parking lot and expect deer to use it. It's got to be in an area that deer are already using. But for some reason, there's not a good scrape there. Like you said, it's got to be in a good spot for you to put a camera in or hunt it. But I think an important factor is making a mock scrape with a species of trees or shrubbery bushes that deer already like to scrape underneath in your area. So like around us, beech trees are probably number one. I rarely find scrapes underneath oaks, white oaks, red oaks. I just rarely ever find one on an oak sapling. A lot of times it's going to be on a beech tree. And another thing that's like, I don't really ever find it under sweet gums all that much. But one thing that I feel like we do find scrapes underneath, especially when you start getting into pre-rut, is Chinese privet. Again, another non-native. All my land guys out there, habitat managers, hate that plant. Terrible. You don't want it on your place. But if you're on public land and there's Chinese privet, deer love making scrapes under those, especially if it's a bigger privet plant that's privet bush that's 8, 10, 12 feet tall. Mm-hmm. It's got there's tons of branches, tons of little leaves on it, and they will wear out a privet bush. Those to me make awesome, especially in our area of the state, awesome places to put a scrape underneath.
Yep.
And they're typically, a lot of times you're going to find privet in a little bit thicker spot, a lot of times because there's more privet around it. And like there's like one spot I'm thinking of where it's 8, 10-year-old pine, probably 10, maybe actually older than that now, thinking about it, maybe 12-year-old pines, and there's privet inside of it. And every year, starting late November, there will be scrapes all in those pines, which have barely any understory underneath, but they'll be around all those privet bushes. And to me, those are something that's kind of underlooked, especially in our area of the country. It's not really looked at for making scrapes, but something you can use, pretty well in some locations. And also another thing you got to think of, it's got to be softer soil. You can't do it in super rocky, gravel-like soil because they're not going to be able to paw it out very well. Mm-hmm. I think it was Drew Atkinson from Arkansas talking about in the Ozark Mountains when he makes mock scrapes, a lot of times he's got to pull rocks up out of the ground to give them enough soft soil in order for them to actually paw the ground and not just work the licking branch. And that's a big emphasis for like what he tries to do. And has a lot of success with it. So take that kind of consideration as well. But like knowing your species of what you're normally finding scrapes, what trees bucks are scraping and using for licking branches, try to use that same species when you're making a mock scrape, and that I think it will help tremendously.
Yeah, definitely agree. What was the episode number with Greg Skufka?
I don't know, but if you look up Greg Skufka, it'll probably pull up. I'll look it up.
So we did an episode on scrapes a couple years ago with Greg Skufka. It's called Licking Branch Magic with Greg Skufka, and he goes really in depth to that. And he was the one that was bringing up what you were just saying about finding what species they like to scrape underneath and using that limb. For instance, they like beech limbs. Well, you can go down in the bottom. Let's say you're making one up in some pines somewhere. You can go down in the bottom, find a beech tree, cut a limb off of it, go up and then tie it or zip tie it, whatever, to a pine tree and at the perfect height and have that licking branch, and they'll be more apt to use it.
Yeah. So actually, it was more than a couple years ago. Licking Branch Magic with Greg Skufka. It came out October 4th of 2021. It's audio only. It's not on YouTube. This is well before we started doing the YouTube video podcast. But again, episode 286. Licking Branch Magic with Greg Skufko, which came out October 4th, 2021. Check that out. It's a really good episode. And he talked about that, like learning the different species. And he said, based off his research, it looks like a lot of scrapes are made with tree species that have a softer hardness of the wood, which allows them to potentially leave more scent molecules in the actual licking branch than a harder wood like an oak or hickory. They'll still use those, but again, he had some really good examples of what he's done. Now, he's in Michigan, but again, a great guy, and has a whole book called Licking Branch Magic.
Yeah. All right, let's do some fun ones. We got two of the same question. I'll read both of them, then we'll answer it. Austin Cooper asked, what's the dream hunt for you guys? Love the show. Keep up the good work. And then Blake Brazil asked, if you could only go on one more hunt, what would the hunt be and where? So death row hunt. Instead of getting a death row meal, you get a death row hunt. What's your dream hunt?
Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
No. Elk,
Really?
I think elk would be fun, but yeah, just something, I don't know, something high elevation. It's a tag. It's super hard to get.
Last time we were in Wyoming, you said you were like, you couldn't pay me to go hunt a bighorn sheep.
I mean, if it was death row, and I'd figure out how to do it. We'd make it happen.
You might die on the mountain.
But it's one of those things that's like not many people get to do it.
Yeah.
And it would just be, I think, a cool hunt.
They live in crazy places.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I did not expect that from you. Are you putting in for bighorn anywhere?
No, probably should.
Yeah, if you start putting in now, you probably draw by the time you're about 60.
Maybe, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Just depends. Or just have a lot of cash and go buy an outfitter's tag.
Yeah, that's
Spend
true.
like
That works too.
60 to 80 grand on that tag.
Ouch.
about you?
Mine would be Kentucky elk for sure. That's always been my dream hunt ever since they opened Kentucky elk. I've missed a couple years, but I put in for it pretty much every year. Never draw. Probably, I don't know if I ever will.
Let me think of an honorable mention. Honorable mention would probably be Yukon moose.
Oh,
Actually, I don't know. Moose might actually be high. I don't know that. Moose and bighorn sheep, like Yukon moose or bighorn sheep, is like right there. Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. Just, I don't know, something about that style hunt, especially doing like either a float trip or fly out to a spot for like 2 weeks and just, yeah. Because it's also the social aspect calling a little bit. It would be a gun hunt. Actually, I don't know, it might be a bow hunt. Probably gun.
yep.
That'd be a fun, interesting adventure style hunt.
Yeah, that would be cool. That for me, the Kentucky elk is just cool because it's in the east and it's where Daniel Boone hunted elk, which is pretty neat. So,
You're not much of an adventurer, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I'd like to go hunt moose and everything, but if I could only do one, that would be it. That's my bucket list hunt right now that I put in for and that I want. Never gotten it. So, Kentucky elk.
At this point, my bucket list hunt is a freaking alligator gator tag because it's harder to draw than a freaking Iowa archery tag. God.
I know.
That's-
We struck out on gators again in Alabama.
It's so frustrating. I'm like, I'd give up my Iowa archery deer tag, which some people would be like, you're crazy. But I'd give it up for an Alabama gator tag in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I've hunted Iowa a couple times. It's fun. I ain't hunted gators. I want to do it real bad.
Right.
Especially after fishing down Lake Eufaula and seeing gators everywhere. I'm like, come on with it. Let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Let's see. There's another real good question here. What are y'all's rifle setups? This is from Ian Bishop on Instagram.
Which one?
I don't know. What's your favorite one?
I mean, favorite one's the one I use all the time is that Christian Arms Mesa 6.5 PRC. Shoots really well. Fairly lightweight, excellent trigger on it. But, dude, I've got so many guns I freaking love. Never killed anything with them. Some of them never even shot them, but they've been sitting in the safe.
They're just waiting for their day.
One of my favorites, I'm telling you, it's still one of my favorite rifles, and I've never shot the gun. Hopefully I'll do it sometime this year. Maybe try to kill something with it. It's a Ruger Model 44 carbine, and it looks like a Ruger Model 1022 22 rifle. Looks identical to it, but it shoots 44 mag. It's a 44 mag rifle. Shoots 44 mag pistol cartridge. Internal tubular magazine, so there's no external magazine or anything like that. Beautiful little gun. They only made it from 10 years. I got the 1976 bicentennial anniversary rifle. It's like 4.5, 5 pounds, super lightweight. super compact. It's a cool little rifle.
Is this the year?
I love that.
You dust that thing off and go shoot something with it.
Yeah, I love that. And then I've got a couple different Winchester Model 70s I really like, and one of them's that's a 338 Win Mag that was manufactured in the early 70s. Beautiful gun, great wood stock, great trigger, beautiful gun, but it's 338 Win Mag. And I kind of want to hunt with that really bad too.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of different guns I really want to hunt with. I've got a couple Remington. I got a Model 7400 automatic. I think it's 7400 is the automatic. It's chambered in 270, beautiful gun, wood stock, beautiful gun. As Travis Murray called them, it's the Jam-O-Matic for deer drives, dog drives. Then I've got I don't remember I think the other Remington, it's a pump 30-06. I want to say it's the 7600. I might have my model numbers all mixed up, but someone who bought it, they cut the barrel down and they recrowned it. It's 18-inch barrel, pump action, 30-06, cool gun. Has the receiver, looks like a Model 870 shotgun, but pump action, 30-06, cool gun. Never shot it. Had it for a while now.
Yeah.
But what about you?
The last couple of years I've been shooting the Christensen Mesa in a 7mm 08. Really like that gun a lot. I've enjoyed shooting it for the last couple of years, but I literally just got it out of the safe. I've got a Remington Model 721 that belonged to my grandfather. This gun predates the 700. They started making them in 1948, and I can't remember what year that one was manufactured. I looked years ago and tried to figure it out with the serial number. I think it's like a early 50s model maybe that he got back in the 50s, and it's what we all grew up hunting with. Like my grandfather killed deer with it. My dad killed deer with it. I killed probably my first 12 or 15 deer with it. And I haven't shot it in a couple years, but this year I'm dusting that sucker off. I'm going to go shoot something with it. 30-06,
Yep.
classic. So I'm really excited about that.
And then rifle scopes. You're using what do you have on yours? Which Vortex do you have on your Christensen? You're using the Viper, the new Viper,
the 2x10.
2x10.
Yeah.
Which is a sweet optic. I've got one on another gun, but I'm still using the Viper, where I'm using the Vortex Razor LHT. It's a 3x15 by, I think it's a 42 millimeter objective lens with their lit reticle dot, and it's awesome. I still love that scope. Absolutely love it. I'm a sucker, especially in the Deep South. I've talked about this before, and I've mentioned this to some other guys. I really like a center lit reticle on a rifle scope, where it's right where the crosshairs meet, that point is lit, red. I just love that for low light conditions, or especially hunting clear cuts. You turn on the lowest setting where it's barely there, you can see it. It doesn't completely blind you from the deer, but really fine aiming point. I really love that for a lot of our hunting styles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do too. Same exact thing. Let's see, a couple more here before we wrap up. This one is from Clay Pardue. He said, how do you deal with the difficulty of leaving your kid/family to go on a hunting trip? I have not been great at this in the past, and I've worked on it these last couple of years, and I responded to this on Instagram. He said he's got a big hunt coming up in the next couple of years, or this fall. And what I've learned personally is you've just got to set the expectations with your family about, like, if you're going to Iowa for like 10 days this fall, which we're doing, make sure that you're really clear about that, and then make sure that also you get their blessing as well. Because where things kind of start to come apart is when you're like, I'm just going to do this, y'all can do whatever. If you're not taking care of things at home, then you're just going to be miserable on the trip. They're going to be mad at you, and it's going to ruin the entire experience. And then also just, when you got a little kid at home, it is hard to leave them, especially like my daughter's 2 right now. And when you leave for a week and you come back, they're like different every time. They're growing so fast. They're starting to learn how to talk, like they're hitting milestones, and so you're missing that stuff. So if you just set the expectations, and when you're with your family, you're really with your family, you're not paying attention to them.
present.
You're present with them. That's going to help. That's going to help you not feel guilty on the trip. That's going to help them, appreciate you when you're gone. and understand that it's something important for you. Because if you're not being good to them, they're not gonna be happy with you when you leave and go chase deer.
Now, I'll say this, and I want you to talk about this because I learned this from you. And I used to not make fun of you, but I was like, "What are you doing, bro? We're on a hunt trip." You're great about communicating with your wife, Tiffany, on trips, like calling her every night and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were in Wyoming, 2017. Y'all weren't even married yet or dating.
Yep.
And you called her from the mountaintop, and I'm like, "Bro, what are you doing, bro? We are hunting." And you spent like 45 minutes with her on the phone. I can't believe we had cell service, talking to her. So, what is your thoughts on just communicating and having some kind of line of communication with your spouse while you're gone? Just, I mean, like, what's the reason behind it? Why and how has that gone?
Yeah, there's no one size fits all approach for every relationship because some people are different. Like my wife, she likes a lot of communication. She likes to talk, and so when we're on a trip, even if I call her for 10 minutes at night just to tell her good night and hear about her day, that means a lot to her, and that helps keep her happy. Because she might not be like, put yourself in her shoes, for instance. Like right now. Again, we have a 2-year-old and 3 dogs at the house. Our life is chaos right now. So if she's been at home all day and she's having to do all the cooking, she's having to do all the cleaning, she's having to take care of the dogs, she's having to do all this stuff, and she might have like a terrible day. And meanwhile, you're 6 hours away in another state chasing deer. And you don't even give her the time of day to call her and hear about what she's got going on. Because a lot of times, like my wife, she just wants to vent. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you'll never believe what Boone did today. Like he pulled the lamp off the thing or what, like whatever the case may be." So just giving them a little bit of time to vent, that's what works for my wife. It might be different for Emmy, your girlfriend, or it might be different for this guy's significant other, whatever the case may be. But you just got to figure out what's important to them and make sure that you're giving also. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to be very, very bad about this. And it led to a lot of conflicts with us. It really did. And it led to conflicts to the point where it was hard for me to enjoy a lot of these trips I was going on. Not because she was in my ear telling me to come home, but because I felt bad about it. And so it ruins the experience for everybody. So just be present when you're there, set expectations. And another thing I told him, I was like, dude, if you got little kids at home and you're on this trip and you're missing like whatever your kids got, like if they got like a soccer game or whatever the case may be, or they're starting to talk, and when you're up there, you're just not enjoying the trip because of that, then just go home. Like, just go home and be with your family. There's always going to be more time to hunt later. It's not the most important thing. This is something we all enjoy, but keep the home life solid first. Mm-hmm. Like, don't sacrifice the home life. We've seen it time and time again. I know so many guys who have terrible relationships with their kids and who have gotten divorced over hunting. So don't do that. Don't let that be you. Yeah. And you can have your cake and eat it too. If you manage your family right and you pick the right partner too. Set expectations going into relationships if guys are out there dating. If you set it up right, you can enjoy your hunting and have a great family life too. They don't have to be mutually exclusive or anything. So
yeah, exactly. Like I went through a whole turkey season now with my girlfriend Emmy, and that was a good test run because like keep that line of communication. It's funny when you actually date somebody you really like, how easy it is to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what
like I'm not married yet, but just dating. How easy it is to do those small things, just like stay in touch. Because like I'm not texting a whole bunch during the day, especially on hunting trips.
Yeah,
like just I'll call you in the evening. Compared to like it's easier when you truly like somebody.
Yeah,
and how it is to like have that open line of communication and make them feel like you're still present there, even though you're ever how many hours away. I think it's a really big deal. So
yeah, that's the other thing too about like I want to talk to Tiff. I like her. I married her and had a kid with her. Mm-hmm. I enjoy talking to her. So it's not hard for me to go call her. Like that's what I'm thinking about when we're back at camp, we're back at the house, whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna go call Tiff real quick. Been hanging out with you guys for like 4 days. I'm gonna go talk to her. So all right, let's see. Let's do one more. All right, this one is gonna be more up your alley than me. This is from Cobb34 on Instagram. Straight wall cartridge or muzzleloader during alternate gun season? If a straight walled cartridge, what is preferred? Ooh, I knew this would get you fired up. I have nothing to add here.
Alternative gun season, so he's talking probably Missouri, because Missouri has an alternative weapon season.
Meaning?
It's not center fire. It can't be a rifle. Most of the time, I think, if I remember right, in Missouri, you can shoot a center fire rifle cartridge, but it has to be in a pistol form. So, like my uncle, he lives in Missouri. He hunts with a Thompson Center Encore Pro Hunt or whatever pistol in 7mm 08. Mm-hmm. Freaking thing is nasty. I've got one. Another thing I've never killed deer with. I've got one though. It's pretty sweet. You can use that. You can use muzzleloaders. You can use, I think some of them they allow for shotguns, maybe. And then they recently was centerfire rifle cartridge, where you actually have a full size rifle, but it's got to be straight wall cartridge. The easiest thing, if you had that option, a straight wall cartridge rifle is so much easier to maintain, shoot, get ammunition, all that kind of stuff than a muzzleloader. Personally, I love a muzzleloader because I just like throwing a giant chunk of lead down range at a pretty fast speed, and when it hits a deer, it is game over. But if I had the option, like doing like one of these hunts like what you're talking about, a straight wall cartridge, a 350 Legend, is a phenomenal cartridge to 300 yards. I mean, 300 yards is kind of pushing it, but there's plenty of people that kill deer at 300 yards of that cartridge. And it does extremely well, and that's going to outperform or perform as well as some of the higher tech muzzleloaders that are still actually shooting blackless powder or smokeless, not using black powder muzzleloaders. That centerfire straight walled cartridge like 350 Legend is going to outperform it most times, unless you get real nerdy with black powder, or if you go over to a smokeless powder muzzleloader, and then you can have I know guys smokeless powder muzzleloaders and have built muzzleloaders for that are shooting 700-800 yards and shooting 3,000 feet per second with a 300 grain projectile.
Artillery.
Those are expensive. So I'd probably say straight walled cartridge, 350 Legend, super abundant, great ammo options, plenty of rifles built in that, from budgets of $350 to $1,500, whatever you want to spend. But that's what I would do. I think that'd be a great alternative. Very accurate round, ballistics recoil similar to the 30-30, but higher bullet coefficient ballistics, so it's going to be a little bit better long range shooting. Be great all around gun. So that's what I would recommend, is a 350 Legend.
Cool. All right. That's all the questions we're gonna do. There's still a couple more we left off.
I'm kind of questioned out. I'm like, that's a lot.
Fried my brain for a minute there.
Yeah.
So y'all write in some video Q&As.
Or just not write in, you submit them.
Submit them.
Links down below. Go over to the website. Take a quick little video on your phone. Give some details. Kind of what state you're in, the habitat, all that kind of stuff. Public, private land. Don't mention names of public land on there. But just give us some information in the video. Submit it on the website, and then we'll play you on the podcast. Upcoming Thursday episode. Really enjoy doing those. Appreciate everybody that wrote in these questions through Instagram and Facebook, but love for you guys to submit some video questions.
Oh, one more thing. We got several questions about hunt videos. Like, where can people see more of our hunting content, hunting videos? We made a conscious decision a couple years ago that we were trying to film hunts and we were trying to do the podcast. And we just decided that we're just going to do the podcast as good as we can. We're going to put all our focus and effort on that, and the hunting thing will be secondary. Like, we didn't really want to build this on hunting videos per se. So whenever we do one of those, it's just kind of icing on the cake. So we're not like going out and filming every hunt. That being said, we usually do 1 or 2 trips a year where we will have guys come out and film it. We did that last year in Kansas, and we have that whole hunt. It's going to be coming out sometime in August or September. So be looking for the YouTube video of that. Some of the other hunting content, we've got that Arkansas hunt from a couple years ago. I think most of our hunting content is going to be on Patreon. So that one will be coming out on Patreon probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if y'all want to see that, y'all can go over to Patreon, sign up. It'll be over there, so you'll be able to watch that video. And then the Kansas video is going to be on YouTube. Then this season, I know we're going to film Iowa. We're going to film a couple other hunts. Don't really know what we're going to do with them yet. Probably going to be putting most of that content on Patreon. So y'all be looking for that. Thanks to everyone who already subscribes on Patreon. We're trying to put more bonus content and early episodes up there as well. Just because of how we film and do things now, we've got a little bit more freedom to do that. So we've been doing that over these last couple of weeks, been getting some good responses to it. Especially in the fall, we do a lot of hunter hangouts, which is where we just do a Zoom meeting with everybody. Everyone hops on there. Sometimes we look at properties. Sometimes we're just shooting the breeze, whatever. It's always a good time, though. Are we doing a hunter hangout soon?
Yeah, I'm actually planning. It'd be after the podcast. I'm planning on doing one tomorrow night. It's like we've been doing them scheduling for Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I swear every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have something going on that we can't do it. So I'm going to do a kind of a last minute one tomorrow, which is Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday, and then talk to the guys about looking at doing a different day of the week that we can do. Because typically right now when we record episodes, unless we're on a trip or something, we don't really record much on Wednesdays. Outside of every now and then doing a last minute Thursday episode, but we typically do it in the middle of the day anyways. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to see if we can move over to Wednesdays.
Yeah. There was a time, by the way, when we were trying to do hunts every year, like a couple hunts every year with podcast guests, and we were gonna film the whole hunt and put it out there. And we learned that is logistically a complete nightmare. That is so hard to do. And it's really hard to produce the podcast the way that we do it right now and do the hunts, because, I mean, the podcast takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So that's why we don't do as many hunt videos as some other channels out there, but we'll do some. But anyways, you got anything else?
Nope. Appreciate everybody watching the podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Go check out the website. Get your Freezer Queen shirt. I've been wearing mine the last couple episodes. Love it to death. A lot of guys that came by the World Deer Expo really enjoyed them. And everybody coming out to the GON Outdoor Blast Expo in Emerson, Georgia this weekend. You can come pick you up one of these shirts and some other stuff that we've got going on there. So appreciate everybody's support. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. We'll catch you back on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.